3d6 down the line.
Okay, that is episode 80 in the books. Well done, guys. Cool things discovered.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was awesome, guys. Like, what a surprise at the end.
Yeah, right. Every time that number goes up, I'm amazed.
The number?
Really, I mean, like, yeah, of episodes.
Oh, episodes.
80
yeah.
episodes. That's significant.
That is
I mean,
a lot.
That is a lot. Yep.
I was thinking, because things really went off the rails there at the end, and this is because of the circlet. And I was thinking about this, like the difference between what we're playing now, and we've kind of talked about this before, but like, in 5e, right? I would not consider a 7th level character to be a particularly high level. That's a mid-range character, right? Some of us are lower than that, and we're actually quite powerful. And I think it really just brings to the fore the importance of magic items in old school play, right? It's not really about your character's level. I mean, even if I had 2 more levels, I probably only have 4 more hit points, but it's all about the items you get.
100%.
And well, so here's the thing. I don't DM a lot, I don't make a lot of adventures, but I'm always nervous about giving stuff to putting stuff in there, because players, as you will know, John, they'll take that shit and they will fuck up your plans and they will ruin everything with the item you give them.
Sure.
Right? Like, I was expecting them to go to the library today, and instead they're going up to the surface to have a powwow with a dragon or something like that, because of the circlet. And we saw the secret door we would never even thought to look for.
Right. Although John, and I don't know if this was on the Discord or if it was in this, he said several times in the last couple of times that we like hung out, don't forget the key in the bottom of the thing, like he kept saying it. And so
that's true.
Like, I mean, that was definitely a telegraph thing. Like, we never had taken time to I think we might have actually searched this fire room the first time we went in there. I kind of think we might have.
It was very hot.
I think we were really focused on the pit itself. I mean, this is a neat, a well-designed room, and that part of the reason that, or part of the way that the secret is kept secret, is because there's a big shiny thing to focus on. Right. It's also hot and miserable to be in there. Yeah. So you're disincentivized to spend a lot of time looking around.
Right.
That's certainly how I felt.
Yeah,
especially if you can read that Mithric, and you're once you do, you're kind of like whisked away.
Cool.
I'm fairly sure that you didn't explore the room for those exact same reasons.
Big shiny thing.
Yeah. The other thing too is, like, even if you got the key the first time I had telegraphed it, you may not have assumed that there was a key to something in this room.
Oh, I totally didn't.
The Iron Circlet worked really well, and you can kind of see like what your plan of action for that is. It's like the Iron Circlet is great if no one else is around, right?
Yeah,
that's the same thing with Touristas, Yeah,
and the other thing is, like, you're doing a really good job of telegraphing. There's a cost to this. Like, something's going on with Lothar. It's building up. The bill will come due at some point. The bill 100%. Will come due.
There's no doubt. Yeah, they can become a lich. You can have a priest lich, right? Nephrat's a priest.
It's a time-honored thing where, like, artifacts always have a cost. Like, you never just get an awesome thing that just kick ass no matter what. I mean, there's always something, even if it's not mechanical. Like, for instance, with these things, it's in the world itself, artifacts are desired by everybody. So once they peg it for an artifact, everybody and their mother is going to want it. You know what I mean? So
it's interesting because I had a unique experience. So we reclassed Wolfherd, not only because of the mechanism that's so important of this dungeon to be able to teleport to get from level to level. At first we were playing him, and it was easy to not worry about that and just focus on no magical items. But then as soon as the realization hit that, wow, we have these capabilities to hop levels, right? Very quickly and easily in a bunch of different ways. And that's completely off the table. But even though that's why we reclassed him, as soon as that restriction was lifted on him, and I was able to say, okay, well, what magical gear do we have now that that's on the table that he can take? And his capabilities just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
And he can do so much more now because those magic items are on the table. I mean, barbarians, I guess at level 4, they don't need magic stuff to be able to do magic things, but still, it made a big difference in the character.
It's a big point. It's a really good point, Matt, because as many people always point out who aren't really familiar with BX or classic D&D, it's the fighter always kind of gets in these people's minds is like, well, every other class gets something, but the fighter doesn't get crap, you know. And as you were saying, Ted, it's like it's all about what you're carrying. And I guess the only other class that sort of has that ability to really show off like powerful items is the magic user, right? The magic user also can wield a lot of stuff that no one else can. Right. But the fighter can wield, you know, every armor, every shield, every weapon, and all of them equally well. And it really, you know what I mean? Like you're absolutely right. Like now suddenly, even though the barbarian has more inherent abilities, the fighter, now that Wolford has turned into a fighter, he can suddenly outfit himself in like a whole panoply of like crazy shit, you know?
Right.
It's always about the items.
In games that were more mechanical, you know, than OSE, OSR has a tendency to be 3.0, 3.5. I was always attracted to like monks, for instance, because in my mind's eye, I was like, you take away everything from me, you bastard DM, and I'm still combat effective. Right. You know, and that was an attractive thing for me. That's why I played a lot of those types of characters back in those days. But now, you know, it doesn't feel like, because we're not relying on that style of play, like I don't have to worry about there being a grid and moving 30 squares or like whatever. Then I guess I don't feel, it's weird. I don't feel as attached to my items. Like, yeah, I mean, I would be sad to lose my amulet of spell absorption or like et cetera, et cetera. But especially in this environment, there's more out there. Assuming I don't die, I'll find other stuff, you know, like it's okay.
We've lost a lot of stuff, and
we've lost a lot of stuff along the way, and including an artifact.
But that's not like OSC. That's Arden Bull. That's what Richard Barton put into this thing. Like there's just, you guys have learned throughout all these years now that that there's always something cool right around the corner. Right. This is a treasure heavy dungeon. I mean, which is awesome because it makes my work like a lot less. I don't have to worry about like constantly populating the dungeon with a bunch of cool shit for you guys to play with. It's already there. You know, it's awesome.
Well, I've got a question about that, John. So, not to give you a big head or anything, but at the Down the Hatch, everybody was saying what a great DM you are. Oh. So why don't we seek some advice from Wise and Mighty John? If you were creating in a dungeon, do you have any guidelines for populating with treasure? Because I have found it to be very difficult. I was running Matt through something, and we had a random encounter, standard random encounter, and I rolled on the charts exactly like you're supposed to, and they walked off with a bag of holding and 15,000 gold. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Sweet. I mean, it was great for them. They were like first level. Yeah. It was insane. It was totally random. And I'm like, this is what, I mean, that is like one of the reasons that I actually liked 5e in many respects, was I knew what my bounds were of what to put in a room for an encounter, of what kind of treasure to put in there. It's really hard in this system to know what to give people.
Similar to like the encounter, it's all about encounter balance in the later editions of D&D, including treasure balance as well.
Right, exactly.
Which is what I like about the other stuff, because I don't have to think that hard. It's just like, if it sounds fun, just fucking throw it in there, man. It's like, I see no problem with low level characters getting very, very powerful items, because it's super fun for the players. It can be game changing, immediately. It gives you sort of like the power boost an ability to affect the world that you weren't expecting at such low levels, because when you look at your class page, it just seems so bereft of anything cool to do. that you're used to with the older editions, and then you realize that all the cool shit I get to do is because of the treasure I'm finding,
stuff I get,
which drives you to explore and find more cool shit, because those are your abilities, right? So, I'm not designing my own module here. Like I'm running what he has. I make little adjustments sometimes. Like there's a lot of like sword +1s and stuff that were kind of boring. So I usually put some flavor into the weapons a little bit more, in the armor and the shields and things like that. Like,
so
like
the
a shield that
appetites, for instance, was like, did you add that whole like blood from like your last kill? Is that, or was it just like an axe +1?
Did I do
that? Was
that?
The one that Niall was running around with.
That was such a long time ago. I named it.
You did.
I'll give you that. I can't remember if I added a little aesthetic thing or not, but yeah, I tend to add names, and I tend to add like maybe a minor ability or two, just to differentiate it from just having a straight bonus. But other than that, if I'm placing treasure, I try to do it like in world. So like if it's like an orc lair, I just kind of think like, how much money would an orc have? You know what I mean? And I put that amount in. Are they likely to have magic weapons? If they do, why? Right? Are they bandits? And they've been, that sort of thing. So I try to kind of think of it diegetically. And then sometimes I'm just like, it's been a while since they had a lot of treasure. Like, I'll just, let's give them something cool. Boom. To be clear, that's not happening here in this module because Richard has done such an excellent job. Like, I don't have to do any work, which is so good. So if you need a reason to purchase out there, if you're looking for a reason to purchase Arden Bool, it's all like, it's dense. It's not in that nice control panel design of modern OSR games, but there's so much there that is already done for you, as far as populating the dungeon with interesting things. You really don't have to do that much. It's pretty phenomenal. Yeah.
I tell you, one of the things. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that I have loved about the big treasures that we've found so far is that each one of them, once we got past that, like, oh my God, there's so much money here. Oh my God, this thing's so powerful. Immediately it becomes a problem. How do I keep this safe? How do I protect this? How do I get it to a place where I can use it? Everybody else wants this thing now. So, I think that DMs naturally, their hesitation would be, oh my gosh, this is just going to mean they're going to steamroll everything. But that's being a little bit short-sighted in terms of like, if you think of it from the larger context, right? And the world, and how is the world going to respond to this? Then at least it's a really, really interesting play. Like, some of the most interesting story arcs that we've done so far have come from the problem of treasure. And I think, we're starting a new one with your little tiara there, Mike.
Can I like pat us as players on the back a little bit here too? Because one thing I can tell you is it takes like it takes a group of players that are okay with losing, right? Like, you have to be okay with losing. I'm the least one of us that's able to do that. That's why the Gladiator School treasure was so triggering for me, because I was like, that's my goddamn loot, right? So running a game for my kids, I can only imagine the level of ennui and angst and meta whatever, like, questioning of everything if I took away like a +1 weapon. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. Like there's a certain tutoring that needs to happen with your players. And I think that Arden Bool as a setting has helped me with that, right? Yeah. But I do think that you guys and to a lesser extent me are okay now with the character dying, or and people say this on our Discord all the time. It's like, guys, we're not resurrecting anyone. No one's coming back from the dead. You're dead, you're dead. And that, I think, is like, it's okay to do that. It's okay to say goodbye to a beloved magic item, to a beloved character or whatever, and just move on with your game.
I agree. Yeah.
Right, Darius?
Yeah, sorry, man. I'd be curious. Actually, like, I mean, you guys, we've all played for a long time. That was not the case when I was a kid. I was very paranoid about that stuff. And even Mike, when we first started playing, you know, I mean, I remember I had a character I was very paranoid about losing my stuff. I would go out of my way to protect my items and things like that. And I'd be really curious in the early days with Gary Gygax, how long that arc of learning took his first players, right? Like, did they start out the gate like understanding that this was a game of easy come, easy go? Or, you know, did they get super attached? And my guess is the latter, because their characters made it into, you know, the world lore. And I'd be willing to bet that there was.
Right.
Yeah,
but
Mike,
like
go ahead.
eight characters made it into the world lore, right? Like Mordekainen and like, you know, like.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah. How many
You know what I'm
died,
saying?
right?
Like,
Yeah.
who knows how many character sheets are just buried in a landfill somewhere out there in Wisconsin somewhere. There's probably like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dudes that just never made it past first level, second level, like whatever.
The stories are out there. I can't cite any, so I wouldn't be able to make a guess. I just know that when I was playing those editions back in the time when they were contemporary, as a young kid, I was not playing the way that we are playing right now.
Right.
Like we're doing this from hindsight, knowing what the OSR design principles are.
Exactly.
Being mature men, relatively, you know, but just, you know, like I was pissed when my character died. You know, I was, you know, I don't know. I was not playing like the way we're playing now. You know?
Blackleaf, no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that was me, man.
Personally, and we haven't talked about like the impact of character death, and you know, just because often I'm not as expressive maybe as I could be. Yeah, like I was sad that Av died, but also this is like it was a very joyous arc for me, like his whole
good story
journey.
Yeah,
right. Like it was an amazing story, and I loved playing him. He's really, really fun. Mm-hmm. But, you know, the stories have an end, right? Like stories have an end. And it's cool to like invest yourself in it. And like, you know, I like to role play a lot and think from my character's perspective and stuff. But at the same time, like that's what makes it so fun. Like you invest, you take that gamble and you be willing to, you know, accept death when it comes also. It's like, let it roll in.
I agree. You're handling it very healthily. There's, I think it's like a fine line of being willing to accept it, but then you want to be invested enough that it hurts. It hurts when it dies, so you want to avoid it. That's the key, because you don't want to just be like rolling out there with a death wish and not giving a shit no matter what. You know what I mean? It's a really tough. It's a tough line that takes like I think a group effort, both on the GMs and the players' part, to kind of create that atmosphere of like I'm invested in it. I like my character. I do not want him to die, and I'll do everything I can to not have it. But then when it does occur, to be mature about it and be like, well, that was a good story. Now we're on to the next guy. You know what I mean? That's hard though. It's hard.
The candle that burns twice as bright burns half as long. And you burn very brightly indeed.
Tears in the rain. Tears in the rain.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I always find like it makes it really fun to play these guys like they don't want to die. Like that's like the hardest part for me is when I'm playing and like that's what breaks immersion for me is like when people are like, whatever. I just got another, I got another guy to back up. Let's just run this guy over the spikes and see, then we'll know I got another one in the backup.
Right.
Because I like giving them just enough authenticity to think they don't want to do that, right? Like they don't want to die. They want to live. And they're going to try to be as clever as I can help them do to live. And then when it dies, it's time.
You mean?
Well, I'll say that losing Gorend hurt. Not hurt. I didn't like sit in the dark and write bad poetry and listen to The Cure, but like that one stung, right?
Yeah.
Darius, not so much. I mean, Gorend, like being a dwarf, advancing slower, not having feats of exploration at our fingertips back then. It took like a year and a half to get that little bastard up to 5th level. And then Darius did it in like 3 months, right? So it's just, it's like, there's also a time level thing in there and stuff like that. But I think the other thing is, and John used to get really annoyed with me when we played other editions of games, is I get bored with my characters and I'd be like, John, I don't want to play a bard anymore. Can I switch to a paladin? And you'd be like, no, Mike. And I would be like, all right, cool. Now I don't have to do that because I don't have to get bored with a character.
Yeah, they die so frequently.
I ain't gonna be around for that long.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is a side effect of the fast leveling with, like being with part of like a large, higher level party and playing a low level characters. You level faster, but that also doesn't allow you to invest as much because you haven't spent as much time with them. But that is what it is. I mean, there's no real solution for that, really. I don't feel, it's.
But go ahead.
I was just gonna say you get invested because of the stories that you've accumulated over the sessions, right? Like the cool things that you've done. Avaricios and Goran had a litany of interesting things that had occurred to them. Darius did have a really cool arc and an awesome ending. And everyone will remember him as the assassin that never assassinated. You know what I mean? Like he's legendary just for that.
Blood.
You know what I mean?
I thought they were going to remember him for Mort killing him. I thought that was the
No, that's what I remember, Ted. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, good times.
Yeah.